Charge your batteries, lock in those props, and check that airspace. Join us live. This is the Drone Owners Network.
And like magic, folks, we are back once again. Boom! Oh, Tommy and I were supposed to work out that thing, and we totally forgot. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Drone Owners Network live show. Today's going to be a great show for you guys. By the way, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Let's see. Doug is in there. By the way, Doug, I'm so jealous, dude. ZZ Top, Bad Company, and Cheap Trick. That is like going to be a phenomenal show. I wish I could go. That's freaking amazing.
I want you to count how many original members and report back to us.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be real hard to do. So as promised, folks, we got a great show lined up for you guys. Some confusion kind of going on in the world of the FAA and all that, and the new release and all that. So to kind of get things moving right along, I think what we're going to do is we are just going to jump over here and jump right into our news segment. And here with the news is Mr. Tommy Polo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Before we jump into the confusion, I wanted to touch on something that I thought was kind of fun. There was the Ultra Music Festival happened, and they wanted to have some drone footage of the show, but they also didn't want unauthorized people using drones. So the companies that are in charge hired a counter drone measure, which worked effectively, but it worked so effectively that it jammed the drones that were supposed to be filming the show. And they also did it, what it sounds like they did it very illegally it happened all down in Miami, whereas they used this counter drone measure, whereas only the Department of Defense and Homeland Security is legally allowed to use anti-drone measures. So that had to have been fun. I would like to have seen the confusion when they started calling. It's like, our stuff's not working, our stuff's not working, our stuff's not working. And then they had to go and fix it, which they did fix it, but yeah, they did it wrong, apparently. But that being said, guess what, guys? The FAA released a whole bunch of new laws and rules for us. But where it's massively confusing, we're going to figure that out today. But what it sounds like right now, there's a temporary thing in place, which is paving the way for length. What the heck is it? You know what it is. I drew a blank. I'm not going to think of it. But they're paving the way for that to be automated for FPV, recreational flyers, AMA fields, for everybody. So it'll be a lot easier just to pick up your phone, hit an app, get authorization, and not have to. Hey, can I fly today? Can I fly over here? It's too much. But it's nice that the FAA is working with this to make it automated and to make it good for us, which will be a lot easier. So with that being said, let's get into the nitty gritty. What's going on here for real?
Yeah. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of break into our news segment, and I want to introduce a friend of ours and a friend of the show. He's a 15-year commercial helicopter pilot, currently a hospital medevac pilot, drone business owner since 2015. Way up on the scale of keeping track of what's going on with the FAA, because he really has to. He's tested a whole lot more than the rest of us. So right now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jason Preston. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kurt. Thanks for having us on. First of all, let me say that what we'll be talking about tonight, of course, I'm not a lawyer, so it's not legal advice. My background, like you said, I've been 15 years in the industry. I worked for one company as a compliance officer and a director of their certificate. So I was the liaison for all of their operations to the FAA. So I basically had to answer for and change, modify as the FAA wanted all of the operation book that they had. So I've been pretty deep in regulations for years.
Well, that's really cool. I also want to add that you are right in the middle of a potential massive storm. So if
we got a pretty good thunderstorm warning. We had tornado warnings out earlier. So if I just kind of wipe and I'm gone, hopefully it's not a tornado rip the office off the side of the house. It's just electricity gone.
Let's hope.
So we wanted to mention that. So we're all trying to kind of understand exactly what happened. I mean, there was the leaked document that went out amongst all the FAA people, and how that got leaked is still kind of in the shadows. I mean, I've heard rumors here and there. I guess it doesn't really matter. But really, it all kind of came together Friday when the actual rules were dropped down, and that's what we really need to be concentrating on. Not so much the leaked document; it just that kind of was a precursor to what was actually happening. So, if I can, let me just turn this over to you, and if you can possibly explain the new rules and how they affect recreational flyers, or if we're going to be even renamed, because that's kind of a question that's kind of come up as well. So if there's an area that you kind of want to start in, maybe the website or something like that, maybe kind of cover these things, I want to just turn this over to you and ask you questions. Also, folks in the chat, if you guys have questions about this that you need answered, post them up in here. And we'll get these questions answered for you as best we can.
Pay attention.
Yep. The nice thing is, when the FAA rolled out the first set of hobby drone rules, they left it as Part 336, and then that was also referenced by FAR 101. So they really made folks dig to find what they were expected to comply with. And I think that was an operational hurdle, but also set people back to the point of, if they're going to look that hard to find the rules, they're probably not going to comply. The one nice thing, and Kurt alluded to it earlier, there was a leaked document. The nice thing about it is, for what the FAA has enacted so far, they've got it very clearly, or 95% clearly laid out on the website. And I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share here and pull up some of their stuff.
Go for it.
So the link that you're talking about earlier is the low altitude authorization notification capability system. I'll get to that more at the end. I want to come back here. So the site that we're on is faa.gov/UAS, and it was released in the leaked document. If you've seen that, it just talks about that air traffic control. Previously, if you were going to do a hobby flight within 5 miles of an airport, you would call the tower, and it was a notification-based system. Originally controlled by Congress, not the FAA. So now the FAA has kind of gotten control of all of it. So the notification was really just that was it, a notification. So if your operation was unsafe, the air traffic controllers could make a statement that they didn't believe it was safe and you shouldn't operate. But there was confusion whether or not the hobby guys even had to comply with that. So it was a regulatory nightmare. And I know everyone's freaking out. I just want to say, calm down. The FAA is working on this automated system for hobby users. So very soon, hobby users will have an automated system, no more calls to the tower, because honestly, guys, even here in Springfield, it's kind of a relatively slow. I mean, they're a Class C airport, but that radar is pinging all the time. They're busy. They just don't have time to follow the rules that were set up previously. So I've got the website pulled up here, faa.gov/UAS. What you want to look for is the recreational flyers and modelers, community-based organizations. There's most of the rules, the new rollout rules are in this section. Now, as Curtis alluded to earlier, some of it sounds like they're going to change you from a modeler or hobby user to a limited flyer. And we'll cover some of that here in the page. So,
boy, that just rolls right off the tongue when I talk to somebody.
A limited flyer.
Yeah, I'm a limited flyer.
I'm a limited flyer, and yeah, well, I've seen some people fly. They're pretty limited in their abilities too. So, going into the community-based organization, they've made a few changes. We'll start here. The registration's been around for the whole time. So register your UAV. There's a size limit on that at 0.55. So if you're under that, no registration required above that. And again, this is only for hobby rules, so don't let me confuse you with Part 107 stuff. Fly only for recreational purposes. You guys, if you've been on Facebook for more than 5 minutes, you've seen the discussion of, well, is it hobby or is it commercial? That's not the discussion. The discussion is it recreational or is it everything else? So if you don't strictly meet the definition of recreational, by every account, then you have to be 107. So it's not, am I commercial or am I not commercial? You have to read into it backwards to see exactly how the FAA has done it. Follow the safety guidelines of a community-based organization. That's been around for a while. Under 336, there was zero guidance as far as what was a community-based organization. How do you find them? Who's approved, who's not approved? Can I just make my one-person community-based organization? So we expect some more clarification on that. I know in the section or the regulatory document 350, there is some more wording in that, but don't confuse yourself with that for now. We'll cover that, and there'll be more here on the FAA page. Huge change in number 4, huge. So one of the biggest discussions, there was 2 big discussions for hobby users from the get-go when the rules started rolling out. Number one, altitude limitation. You guys have all seen that question, right?
So
yes.
my understanding of it is this actually defines it as 400 feet now. There was always kind of a question. Now it is 400 feet.
Absolutely. It's a hard 400 feet now for hobby users. Previously, the only mention of an altitude limitation was if you use the AMA as your community-based organization, they had a limitation within 3 miles of an airport. Outside of that, if you want to go to 10,000 feet and you can still see it, go. However, again, huge change. There is now a 400-foot limit for limited flyers or hobby guys, depending on how you want to call it now until we get a hard change on that. But, and again, that's 400 feet AGL, so above ground level. So if you're on the top of a mountain and you fly out over the valley, you've probably gone more than 400 AGL. So it's from the drone. If you hang a string straight down, if a 400-foot string will touch the ground, then you're legal. If it won't, you're not. That's the easiest way to define it.
So flying off the top of a skyscraper is going to be an issue now, unless this gets redefined later. But currently, this is the way it looks to you.
Well, yeah, and absolutely. And, you know, for those of you that fly Part 107, the interesting thing is the FAA gave us in Part 107 a 400 feet above the highest obstacle that you're within 400 feet laterally. So they gave us a little bit of flexibility there. It doesn't, at least in this wording, it doesn't appear that they've done that for hobby limited flyers. I'll look that up and see just to see how the actual.
Can I propose a hypothetical question to you that you probably don't know the answer to, but this brings up, well, I know a lot of guys are going to kind of look at this angle. So I'm a hobby guy. I can't take off from the top of a building and fly over the building because I will be above 400 feet. Again, your string analogy is a great one, by the way. So I go get my 107. Now as a hobby guy who's as a 107 pilot who's flying as a hobby guy, can I still do that? Can I fly off a building and say I'm a hobby guy though?
Absolutely. So the interesting thing, we get back to, are you a recreational user, which is a limited class? You just have a few things you can do. Or if you don't fall under those rules, you're Part 107. So if you look clearly at number 4, so if you can't follow this 400-foot rule under the hobby guidelines, as long as you meet all of the rules of Part 107, you can do all the hobby you want as 107. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sell it. You just have that operating capability now.
So the good thing here, or I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing, the thing to do here for hobby guys would be to go ahead and get your 107 so that you're not a limited flyer, which is what I was kind of leading up to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And that's always great because, you know, and a lot of guys originally didn't get a 107 because they're like, I just do FPV stuff. Look at some of the Red Bull things and the other Cinewhoop things that are coming out now. One of the largest growing class of UAV videos right now are these guys that are putting Hero 7s and nice cameras on, and they're not exactly a racing quad, but what we would consider an acro or a racing quad previously. Mm-hmm. And they're making some of the coolest video ever. So if you have those skills, get you a good camera, put it on there, make some stuff, and you can sell it. Just get your 107 to do that. It's never a bad thing to have that.
I should clarify. A lot of people have asked me, you know, they assume that I have a 107. So I should say right here and right now, I've never wanted to go out and film things and make money. I didn't want people, you know, saying, hey, I have people that ask me to do that, and I direct them to other pilots. But I've resisted for the longest time. And Randy always nudges me, why don't you get your 107, Curtis? Partially because I'm lazy, partially because, you know, I really didn't want to commercially do something. But under these current guidelines, it's actually a benefit to get your 107.
It will be, yeah. And that's so let me skip over number 5 because the next websites I want to show you are directly in reference to number 5, which was honestly the biggest rub of the leaked rules. But we'll get right back to that, I promise. Let's go on down to number 6. Hobby guys, you've been wanting this forever. So previously, hobby guys couldn't fly FPV because they couldn't, or they weren't seeing the drone with unaided vision. So, and the argument went back and forth. The FAA stamped it. The AMA argued with it, but in the end, the FAA was correct. They have added a provision for you guys now. Under Part 107, you can use a visual observer. Well, why couldn't hobby guys do that? Because that wasn't the way their law was written. They have now changed that. So number 6 on the page, keep your drone within line of sight, or within the visual line of sight of a visual observer who is co-located in direct communication with you. Hobby guys, your FPV flights are now legal again, 100%. Go do it. I don't know that anyone was ever busted for it unless they did something else ignorant, but that's to say that we're working in a positive direction here. Do not fly in airspace where flight is prohibited. So military installations, I wouldn't fly over a prison. Then we get into if the president comes into town, probably shouldn't be flying. That's typically a 30-mile TFR, and they throw you under the jail for that one.
Yeah, not in jail, but under.
Yeah, completely under the jail. Number 8, don't fly near other aircraft, especially near airports. So even as 107, if you interfere with the operations in an airport, you can be liable under several different statutes. So, and that means if an airplane is taxiing out to take off and they see your drone right at the edge of the property, you haven't even come onto the property. If they stop their operation, you can potentially be liable for that. So just stay away from airports. If you're going to be close, just give them a call. And again, this gets to be airports that are not in controlled airspace. Never fly over groups of people, public events, or stadiums full of people. So this one thing that is not changed yet. There's rumors it's going to change under Part 107, but still don't fly directly over people. That's pretty simple in there. And it was the problem earlier. It was in 336 linked by 101 to an AMA document. So it was confusing. At least now they put it all in one place. Never fly near emergencies, such as any type of accident response, law enforcement activities, firefighting, or hurricane recovery efforts. So on 3 of my medevac flights in the last 2 years, I've encountered drones, one of them at 800 feet. Head on, he was just right there. I got it to a stop. And he was reacting to me. I was reacting to him in a different perspective. I stopped and tried to go left. Well, he started going right in his mind, so right in front of me again. So we did this awkward little dance, and he finally decided that maybe he should be below 800 feet. He went through it in his truck and almost ran another car off the road trying to get out of the way. And I'm like, at this point, it's just to say that if you may delay a medevac flight, we have a $5 million machine and someone that's very sick at any of these scenes. So if you're gawking, if you're stuck in traffic, whatever it is, if you're there, Part 107 or legally, just communicate with the fire department. As long as we are typically in communication with the fire department when we come in and land, so they'll let us know, hey, there's going to be a drone on the west side. Absolutely great. I fly a drone around these kind of events too with proper notification to the authorities. So it works out great if you do it right. Never fly under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So that's just to say that don't be hanging at a party drinking, because typically your decision-making skills go down significantly when you've been drinking. So you'll probably violate one of these other rules. But there is
it's illegal in Jersey.
Yeah, that's right.
They made it illegal to drink and fly drone in New Jersey.
Wow, that's at least all of our rules are in one place for now. There's an online here we talked about this earlier, Kurt. Changes coming in the future. Drone operators to pass an online aeronautical knowledge and safety test, and you have to carry the proof that you passed the test, similar to 107, guys. That's not been rolled out yet, so you don't have to do that, but it's coming. There'll be some kind of a little test that you study for, and so being online, it will most likely be administered through the FAA the FAA safety website, and it will be free. I don't know that for sure. Complete conjecture on my part, but I would assume that's what it's going to do. Let's get back to the big.
Can we add about that online testing? One of the things that is coming into place or is in place is that local law enforcement will be able to stop you and ask you for your test results or your identification that you have taken this test or whatever it is that they're going to give you. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. And I haven't read that exact part. The early of 336 and Part 107 were written as local law enforcement couldn't ask you for anything.
Correct.
Now, they could ask for your registration because that's not under the regulatory parts. It's a completely different section. So Part 47 and 48 are the two registration sections. Anyone can ask to see your registration, and by law, you have to show it to them. There's some local regulations as well, but this new operator's certificate, once you pass the online test and print it out, you have to carry that with you, and local law enforcement can ask you to see it. So it will give them a way to ask you some questions. So just know your answers, take your test. For the most part, I think it's going to be a good following positive. Part of that test will be getting you in the system so you can use the link system later on. So back to the website here. Number 5, this is the biggest rub that everyone had. Do not fly in controlled airspace around, above many airports unless, and it goes through a set of basic stipulations here. If you're a fixed field, it sounds like they're going to go ahead and let you continue flying at a fixed field within controlled airspace. But the link system is going to be for the rest of us. It's not rolled out yet. But again, it's just an automated system, so no more calls to the tower. They just don't have time to answer 10 or 15 calls a day. So it's going to be automated, simple. Here, I'll give you a quick look. I'm going to jump over to SkyVector, this flight planning software that we typically use in the medevac industry. So in our area, is that confusing enough for everyone?
I love it.
So this is good though. Everybody should get used to seeing sectionals. I mean, this is how it's done.
Well, it is, and it's very simple to read. So the defining factor for most of us in controlled airspace, and right here, the solid magenta ring. Here's a dashed magenta ring. Here's solid magenta. The big airport, St. Louis, has a solid blue ring. Solid rings around an airport are important because that's your controlled airspace to the surface. Now, if you see this section here where it has a graduated shaded line, that is controlled airspace that steps from 1,200 down to 700. And considering you should be no more than 400, it's not going to be an issue. So this map looks crazy busy, but it's really not as far as controlled airspace goes. Let's see, I believe, oh, here we go. So this is the UAS facility map. So this is the same exact area that we were seeing before. So there's, and actually let me click zoom one more time here. This is about right there is what we're looking at. So before we had circles all over the map, this is a whole lot easier map. Now what this is, the green airports, the green sections here are systems that are already available on LANC. So as Part 107 users and very soon as hobby users, you can go in and select your area that you're flying in, request immediate authorization, and you can fly. If you zoom in, you can see the different altitudes that you can fly in those sectors. Now, there's a few mistakes that people make. And the biggest one that I see is, let me get in one more step closer here to explain it. So, and if you look close, if you want to fly right at the intersection of that road and you click on the LANC system there, you're in a 200-foot, which means you can go from the ground up to 200, and that is your maximum inside of that square. Now, part of most of the LANC authorization systems, they want to know a radius that you're going to be flying. So if you park right in the corner and you put a 2,000-foot radius, well, guess what? It's going to step over into that 100-foot section. And if you've requested 200 feet, it's going to deny you. So just be aware of where you're at, how the system works. It's really, like I said, a quick online. You click it, you put in how long you're going to fly, your radius, your altitude. You'll be registered in your app. You hit it, and for the most part, you'll get back an approval. That it does go to the tower locally, and they have the option to deny your flight if they don't want you flying there. And it may be because the president's coming in. There may be a low-level flying aircraft, whether it's medevac or someone else. But it's just an easy system for them. They don't have to pick up the phone. They don't have to ask a million questions. It's on the map. They pop it yes or no, and it's done. So this is what the FAA is working on for limited flyers. We're going to adopt that term yet, or are we still going to go with hobby guys?
We're all going to be 107 by the end of next week, I guess. Not really sure. I do want to bring up a question that Coast to Coast Drones brought up, and I'm not sure that we're going to have the answer, but it is something that we should look into. I've made no hidden thing about how I feel about the AMA, and because early on in this industry, into this hobby, we were rejected from the AMA, not being welcome at their fields, et cetera, et cetera. That may have changed in some places. People will experience different things in different parts of the country. This was just stuff that I experienced. But Coast to Coast said, Bill Thomas said, this might have been asked already. These fixed fields are old AMA fields. Can anyone use these fields, or do they still have to have memberships with the clubs? Now, I realize we probably don't have an answer for that right now, but I think that's something that we definitely need to look into, is because
I've got an answer for you.
Awesome.
The answer is AMA clubs, for the most part, are established on private property. That being said, you cannot step foot on their property unless they allow you to do so. So you have to fly under their rules. There's a local one. There's one that's literally not a quarter mile from my house. They are an AMA field. They're not within controlled airspace. So somewhat, not within the discussion, but it's wide open. As long as you respect their rights, don't trash their property, you can come in and fly anytime. but any AMA field can limit the activity on that field because they typically own the property.
Aha. Well, there you go, coast to coast.
Makes sense.
We need to do some digging around some of these Seattle locations and find out if they've changed their tune, so to speak.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So last thing here, last slide. And we talked about it earlier. LANC, LAANC, low altitude authorization and notification capability. Collaboration between the FAA and the industry. It directly supports UAS integration into the airspace. That's verbatim from their website. I've used it. It's great. Curtis and I talked a little bit earlier today about if we were going to support one platform or another. At this point, because the system is still being developed, as well as there's rumors that some may start charging, others may not. At this time, I believe it's too early for us to really pull one name and say, hey, you guys should use this one. I know there's AirMap. A lot of folks really don't like AirMap because they were pushing for more strict regulation on UAV. I will say that I've used a couple of different ones. For my typical use, the AirMap app has been more fluid, more flawless, and easier to use for me individual. I know Skyward has one, Kitty Hawk has one. So I'll make a promise to you guys, I will keep an eye on the different apps. We'll continue to use them. And as they morph into the hobby use and what it's going to be long-term, we'll let you know those changes, and we'll eventually lean one way or another.
Correct.
That's really about all I've got, Curtis, unless people have specific questions about, regulation. I know there's always going to be, if I've had a discussion with you on the line, guys, I do apologize. I argue legal terms typically in black and white. For me, 99% of the time, there's a line, you're either right or wrong. Now, that's my discussion. You ask a question, I'll give you a right or a wrong. I'm not saying that the FAA is going to go out and fine you if you've done something wrong. My argument is strictly yay or nay. And there's still to say that, so 336 was a previous document, 350 is the one that has all these new rules on it. Now, the problem is the regulatory framework that the FAA operates from is somewhat in those, but still in FAR, the Federal Aviation Regulations, Part 101. And Part 101 still points at 336. They haven't changed that yet. So the conspiracy theory is still, well, can they enforce a rule that's not really on the books? And can they enforce any rules because 336 has been replaced? That's a better question for a lawyer.
Let's see. So as far as questions, actually, you pretty much covered everything. There's some local questions and stuff like that. But yeah, I think you've got it all pretty much covered. I understand it, which is good.
I understand it, which is better.
I'm glad it worked out.
I'm all FPV, but I do have my 107. I did go and get that.
Awesome.
But I see where the rules are, and I can see, I rode a Harley for, I was want to be 1% guy, that kind of stuff. F the rules, F this, all that kind of crap. But I can see, maybe I'm getting older here, I don't know, but it does seem very fair with what they're doing. They're trying to implement an almost instantaneous, okay, yes, you can fly, or hey, look, something's going on, you need to respect it. No, you can't. It's nice to see the FAA working with that. And I think a lot of these guys, it's like, they hear, oh my God, new rules, all this sucks and everything sucks and everything sucks. But you got to look at it for what it is. Like they're helping us out here. They're trying to make it good for us to fly without breaking rules, without causing problems. And God forbid, like an accident in the sky is nobody wants that.
So keep in mind from our perspective out in the field, what you hear from a lot of guys is, well, the FAA is making more rules so they can write more fines. Keep this in mind, guys. The FAA, the financial side of it doesn't work like that.
And they don't have cops.
Well, if an inspector comes out and writes you a fine, let's say you lose, now you owe the FAA $10,000. Guess what? The FAA doesn't even get that. It goes in a general fund that goes to a bunch of different programs. So there's the conspiracy is that they're making all these new rules so they can write new regulations, make a whole bunch of money to hire more inspectors and write more fines. And it just, the ticket process doesn't work that way.
No, I think safety in the sky would be a much bigger concern than making money. Otherwise, they would just not let it happen.
Well, as a guy that spends several hours in a manned aircraft every week, I definitely appreciate safety in the sky.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you're a guy on the ground. I look up. I don't want nothing falling on me. Shit.
By the way, Jason, that helicopter you're in is badass. That's all there is to it.
I love it. We're one of only just a couple of programs that actually flies in the clouds. Most typically, helicopters don't fly in the clouds. It's freaky at first. I'm sliding down the dash as we're popping into the clouds. It was nuts. But now I love it. Super safe. We're up there, and when other people can't fly, we can. It's almost a $6 million machine. We've got redundant systems. I have onboard radar. I can see what the radar is doing immediately with my own radar deflector. So that's
amazing. Well, Jason, thank you very much for the information and helping us guys out who are still hobbyist guys. But I will say to everybody in the chat and the fellows here, I'm lucky enough to have access to Jason. So when I have a question, and I'm going to be studying here pretty soon for my 107, I have access to Jason. I will be asking him questions so that I can pass this test. I'm going to take the test.
Well, and I do, Kurt. If guys are having particular problems, and it's usually maps, weather, and airspace, I don't mind to help guys out get through those 3 sections. Do the rest of it online. Memorizing a bunch of that nonsense is great. But
we might even do a show where we talk about what the guys need to work on, and maybe you can give us some insight. We might do that for a future show or something along those lines. But Jason, thank you very much for coming on. We do appreciate that. Hang around for the second part because we're going to be talking about something else. I want to throw this back to Tommy. Tommy, you got any more news for us?
After thanking Jason, I do have one more thing to say, but DJI has finally released not a Phantom 5, not an Inspire 3.
What? Really?
Not an X13 camera.
No?
But it is a camera.
What is it?
The Osmo action cam. Curtis, you've talked about this. You called it. I know you called it weeks ago. He said they're going to release an action cam.
Actually, you know what? I need to confess. And I need to be honest about this. I was on Coast to Coast Drones, and they asked me about this, and I said, no, there's no way they're going to release an action camera. So I was wrong. That's all there is to it. I did not think they would do it. I heard the rumors, but no, they have released an action camera, and I'm confessing that I was wrong.
Oh, they did.
But now I'm kind of caught with do I buy one or not? So I thought what we would do is have a roundtable discussion and kind of go over this and see what everybody thought. I mean, we've got some guys here. Let me just pop this into gallery view so everybody can kind of jump in. And I think I'm going to throw this to Randy first, if you're ready, Randy. We all kind of are discussing whether to buy this thing or not. And Randy has got some really good use cases, so I'm going to toss this over to him at first and see what he has to say about this new camera.
So one of the things that we do where I work is we have to shoot a lot of things in vehicles. I work in the news business, and a lot of things that we do are stories that happen in cars or have to do with transportation or things like that. So we use GoPros a lot. We use them a ton, and it airs on national television, and people, no complaints. They look good enough, right? So in doing that, though, it's always somewhat of a struggle because with the GoPros, when we're setting them up and doing the build or whatever, and we're trying to rig things as fast as we can. Let me just give you, this is not my shoot. This is a friend of mine in DC, and he was doing a Today Show spot, and they actually were doing this all live. So all these GoPros were streaming into these what we call live view packs, and so they were able to take all these shots, these multiple GoPros live, and then do the switch in New York as they needed to. But there was a correspondent driving; he was mic'd, and all the visuals were coming off of the GoPros, and they were able to do a live Today Show thing while he drove around Washington D.C. I'm going to share my screen with you, and what you're going to see is just a couple of photos that my buddy was able to give to me. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, we see it fine, yeah.
Okay, so what you're looking at here, and you can look at my cursor, obviously there's a GoPro mounted to the windshield. If anybody's shot any GoPro stuff in the cars, I mean, obviously that's a real simple setup, right? We throw lights up because we have to light a person and have them exposed correctly for television, especially when you have a lot of ambient light outside. Here's the issue. This is what we always run into with GoPros, though. Notice on the dashboard, he's put his phone up here with the GoPro capture app so that he can frame the shot and stuff like that. This is always the case. And in this scenario, I think he was running 2 or 3 GoPros. In this scenario, he has to go through the app and sit there and bring up the next camera. And so you're trying to get your framing right. You're trying to get exposure. There's just a lot of things. And they never give us enough time. It's always a crush. We're always jammed for time. Here's the thing. The Osmo Action, it's got a front screen. I know it has an app also because every DJI product loves their apps, but having that front screen on that camera, theoretically, we could set a shot, we could frame a shot, we could actually go through the menu and adjust the shot without ever having to go into the app. So when we have to build a car setup with 3, 4, 5 cameras, I was doing a NASCAR thing. I think we had like 6 or 7 GoPros on this NASCAR that we were driving around the track. Man, it was a pain because every camera had to go to the app and we were having to adjust it and make it right and whatever else. Man, with that front screen though, you can see where that, for our usage case, how that would come in super, super handy. Let me bring up another photo here just for grins, obviously. Oh, did I lose the share?
Yeah, you did. Just share it again.
Yeah, here we go. So obviously, there's the, oh, well, let's get this out of the way. Seriously. Do you guys see the stuff right on top of it? So, GoPro mounted, HDMI out, all your normal stuff. Let me get rid of this one, and I'll show you how those shots actually looked. You guys see the frame here?
No, we're still stuck on the last frame that you had.
Oh, well, how about this?
You probably have to share the new frame.
I'm telling it to resume share. Still not seeing it, eh?
Still not seeing it. We're still stuck on the...
Here, we're going to do a new share. Here we go. So, how do you see that frame?
Ah, there we go. Yeah.
Okay, so there's your that's Studio 1A, Today Show set. That's weekend today. And then here is that shot with the GoPro on the dashboard with a, lit correspondent. Well, he built all that, having to go through the app and whatever else to get all that to line up, and it looks good. And it made TV just fine. And just for grins, just so you can this is kind of fun. I'll show you the setup in the back seat with the home viewer does not see.
This next shot is amazing. I've seen this before.
Okay, and let me share this. Okay, so what you're seeing, this is in the back of the car, and these are our live view units, and we're using Aja boxes to go from HDMI to SDI. There's an inverter there. There's actually a Weber strip so that everything basically runs on AC power. It's quite the rig. You can see how we're always crushed for time because, they want broadcast quality stuff and they want it now. And so obviously this end of the business isn't going to change for a while. We're stuck doing this. But what we could certainly speed up, and this where that Osmo action camera comes in handy is, let me back out of that, is being able to set up quicker, frame shots quicker, adjust shots and stuff like that without having to dig through apps or whatever. We can dig through apps to set final product or whatever, but at least we can rough everything in with a forward-facing screen. So I'm pretty stoked about it. And the stuff that I've seen of, just like all you guys, I've watched videos online and stuff like that. Some of these early guys that got them and they compared them directly with the GoPro 7. And from what I'm seeing, it's rocking a GoPro 7. It's doing a really good job of keeping up with it, and in some cases surpassing it. So I will probably buy one. I know the company is going to buy many. I reached out to our purchasing guy and I go, hey, just a heads up. This is when it first got released. I sent him a link to it and I said, just be ready. You're probably going to be buying a lot of these. But for me personally, I think I'm going to buy one just because I think they're pretty cool. And, you can put it on cable cams and, whatever else you want to, do with it.
But wait, I got to ask, for what you do, Randy, is the HDMI port necessary?
Yeah, essential.
No HDMI port on the active.
Oh, there's not one on there? There's no sort of video output?
No, it says I remember reading through. I just found it right here. It says unlike a GoPro, there's no HDMI port on the active. If you like to connect your camera to a TV or monitor to view your footage, you're out of luck.
Wow.
The external microphone is a USB-C.
That's fine because you can use the Osmo Pocket microphone adapter if you wanted to get audio into it if you needed to do that. Yeah, okay. That's gonna be a critical thing for us.
Yeah, I just remember seeing it sitting there. I was like, oh crap! I know I read something about no HDMI ports.
So for live stuff, it may not work. We may have to stick with GoPros, but for all other stuff where we're not having to be live, it may be a good option for us.
That might be nice. The picture looks nice from the photos that I've seen of it. It looks really nice. And
yeah, it does.
Stuff online. It does. I like it.
Yeah.
I need to make a phone call. I got to call somebody.
He just hit the 8 button 17 times.
Andy.
Yeah. Call Andy. Area code 555.
Andy, I need you on the show. We need the gadget guru, Nye, right now.
Uh-oh.
You got to come on, Andy. Where are you? He's dialing in.
Is he with Bill Nye?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
we can't talk about gadgets without having Andy Parr, formerly from NBC, the gadget guru himself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Andy Parr. Andy, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Chris. I had to turn off the other computer so he didn't get any background. First of all, can you hear me okay? Has the audio okay?
We can hear you if you can lean in just a little bit.
Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
I can't get any closer.
No, that's fine. You're doing fine. So, Andy, we're discussing the Osmo Action Camera, and we're discussing, should we buy it, should we not buy it, versus the GoPro 7. I know for a fact that you just purchased a GoPro 7. What are your thoughts on this new one?
Well, I have a bunch of GoPros. I have a bunch of cameras and everything from the pocket. I can't tell you how many different GoPros I have, how many I use. First of all, let me tell you, I absolutely agree with Randy. I think the killer app on the camera is the front screen. Lately, over the past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of videos in motorhomes where I'll do 3 and 4 cameras using GoPros. And, even sometimes I'll use a GH5 or other cameras to be able to set your shot without using an app. Is that alone, that's worth the extra $50 of what you'll pay over a GoPro. I have not gone hands on the action camera yet. I'm waiting for it. I ordered it as soon as ordered.
So you did order it. You did order it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not shy about buying cameras. There's a tool for the right job. There's different cameras. A couple things that I am disappointed about, and there's one feature, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, that GoPro has never put on. GoPro's always been very good about doing in-camera time-lapse videos. I've always wondered why they don't put a timer on that. Wouldn't it be nice that if you're someplace in a location, you can set up your camera the night before, set it up to go up before sunrise, capture the sunrise while you're still sleeping in bed. I don't know why nobody's done it. I was hoping that DJI would be smart enough to do that. They didn't put that on the pocket either. I'm also disappointed about the audio. I say that with GoPro, there are adapters you can get. They're typically on back order. I have quite a few of them. They're the adapters that plug in that allow you to use auxiliary microphones. We all know what the built-in mics are like on these. They're passable, but they're not great. DJI did not give an easy microphone solution, and as of now, they don't have an adapter that they're listing for usage on the Action. I've had a couple microphone adapters for the Pocket on order for probably 2 to 3 months, and I still haven't seen them. So maybe I'll ask Randy, any idea when those are coming in?
I don't know. I had heard a rumor that you could use one of those adapters for the action camera, and Checkered Flag Films chimed in on the chat and said only USB, only USB-C, and then that Osmo Pocket adapter does not work with the action camera. So I stand corrected. I was hopeful when I heard that rumor, but it looks like that we are back to square one and don't have an audio solution for the action camera as of yet.
Well, for your usage, and I've seen quite a few of your segments, like the one you just did on Turo, that was very well done.
Cool.
But as you know, until you have an audio solution, well, it just kind of adds one more thing. Now, I'll tell you a product that I have been using for audio. Now, this is not for live production, but for produced productions that I'll use with the Pocket. I don't know if you've ever used one of these. This is a little Tascam recorder. I'll put my hand out. You can see how tiny these things are. It's basically a digital recorder right here. The quality is as good as, if not better than, some of my Sennheiser wireless mics. When you're in production, Final Cut, or as Curtis would use, Premiere, you just sync the audio. The audio comes through very well. You don't have any wireless interference issues with something like that. And I figure when I get the when I get the action camera, I'll try it with the regular audio, and I'll kind of do a comparison of what it would be like with good solid audio on there. But I'm looking forward to get it. I was, like many people, I was surprised to see DJI getting into the action camera business. However, I'm thrilled that they are. You know, I have not been a huge advocate for DJI products. They're not a big fan of mine because I kind of call them as I see them. But the reason I'm happy about it, GoPro has not had competition in this industry. And for the first time, they get a major player going up against them head to head on very similar units. I think that this could be the scenario where a rising tide is going to lift all ships. It's going to cause GoPro to be more innovative, and it's just going to be a contest to see who can come up with the better product, better quality, more features, more bang for the buck. What do you guys think?
Let's not forget that GoPro and DJI have a interesting history. You know, they were friends at one point in the Phantom 1 and Phantom 2 days. And then when the Phantom 3 came out, DJI was like, oh, by the way, we're making our own cameras. And then GoPro finally responds with their situation of, okay, well, we're gonna make our own drones then, you know. And it didn't work out too well for GoPro. I'm hoping that this works out better for DJI. The only saving grace, DJI does have pretty good experience building cameras to this point. We've all been using their stuff, whether we're flying Mavics or Inspires or whatever. They've been making a lot of cameras.
Well, let's not rule out that GoPro has the Hasselblad. I can never pronounce that name
Hasselblad.
right. Thank you, Curtis. They have that brand, so could we see an action camera coming out with a greatly improved lens? Who knows?
Yeah.
And I will say, DJI has the screw-on filter. I think that's a nice touch, but I will tell you, I've never really experienced, any scratching with my GoPros. It's pretty resistant there. I don't know if you've had any chance playing with their Fusion camera, but if any indication of dramatic lowering in prices, the prices are about 40 to 50% lower than what they were 2 months ago. There's probably a new model of this coming out too. So
wow.
I like this. It's there's always situations. So some days I need this, some days I need my GH5, and some days when a GoPro or an action cam is just the right tool for the right job.
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in here. I'm a little more frugal as far as when I make a purchase. So when this first came out, I was not one of the guys that ran out and just bought one. And I've been watching, the iJustine interview or reviews. I've watched the 51 drone review. Everybody that's done a review, I've kind of watched all these things. And then I've kind of went and looked at all the specs on them and everything. Jason had asked me earlier, the GoPro, by the way, is lighter than the Osmo Action Cam. In case you didn't know that, it is actually lighter, as listed on the websites. But for me, it kind of, and I've got 3 GoPros, it kind of boils down to, one, I don't necessarily need it, but I do use a Sony camcorder for when I'm out doing stuff and I want to record myself. And I find that it's just kind of appealing to have this thing and be fit in your pocket. I've downscaled everything that I do. When I go out and fly now, I have, other drones, but I fly with the Mavic 2 Pro when I go out now. So that's nice. It's foldable, goes in a nice compact thing. And the ability to carry that action camera in your hand and have the front facing screen so you can frame yourself, that's really key. I've heard other people, when they've recorded the audio with it, I actually thought the audio was workable. I understand Andy's solution, and I think that's a great solution. I want to keep what I do down. So in my case, I would probably come in afterwards and pump the audio up a little bit, do a little bit of cleanup on it, take the extra minute in post-production. But yeah, I think I would buy it and probably not use my GoPros anymore. But I should say the last one I got was the GoPro 6, I believe. Whatever that one is. I don't even keep track. It's too many numbers.
There's one other factor that we neglected to mention. The stabilization. From the videos that I've seen so far,
yes,
it looks like DJI has done a very, very good job on stabilization. I saw in the comments, from this screen I can't see the comments live, but earlier somebody mentioned that the GoPro Action had a 3-axis gimbal. I do not think that's correct.
I think it's internal stabilization like the 7, like the GoPro does.
Like here's a Sony, camcorder. This one here, this has an active gimbal. I don't know if you can see it.
You can totally see it. Yeah, you see it working.
Yeah.
For a little handheld camera, again, it's another tool for the tool bag that most of the times when I'm shooting, I'm using sticks, a tripod. But sometimes in handheld, I found this. I live in the middle of a theme park. this is a great little camera for fireworks, to go handheld on.
That's what I have, by the way.
Hmm?
That's
I'm
the
sorry?
camera that I've been using right now, the one you have in your hand, the Sony.
I tell you, this is a good little. It's small, it's portable, good battery life, good image. I mean, it does it pale in comparison to this? No, the image is a little different. If you white balance them, they look good. By the way, Curtis, I noticed almost everybody's wearing a hat except me. I got a hat for this occasion. Can you read that?
Made you look good again.
No.
Oh, made you look again, not me.
Think. Now I'm afraid to wear this hat in public. But I figure nobody can punch me right here. So. Made you look again.
Because Jason's in a storm area, I do want to get Jason on here to get his input on this, and I don't want to lose him in case that storm kind of blows through. But I do want to get him documented as to what he would do. I kind of know what he did, but I do want to get him as live as to, would you buy the Osmo Action or would you not, or do you still prefer the GoPros? What do you think?
Well, Curtis, I was one of those guys that just as soon as the link went live,
You
I
bought
was
it.
trying to buy it before 9,000 other people did. And my Osmo Action arrives either tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday. I'm looking forward to it for lots of reasons. I know DJI's worked hard on their imaging capabilities, so I look forward to it. And again, like you mentioned, it's just another tool in the box. If I end up liking the GoPro Hero 7 for certain things, I'm confident there's certain things that I'll also like the Osmo Action for. I tell you one thing I'm interested in. Of course, I've already contacted Jeff at Polar Pro. I'm a diehard Polar Pro guy for filters and stuff, just because I've got some bad filters. But that's to say that I've seen a cage already, because a lot of the GoPro 7 there's a step-up ring that gets them to 52 or 53 millimeter. I can't remember exactly what. I'm already seeing cages for the Osmo Action that will adapt those to your 52, 53 millimeter filters. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see as people produce products for it to make all of those accessories usable right on the Osmo Action right away. So you're not going to break your budget having to buy a whole bunch of new things. So it's interesting. I'm excited to get it. I'll throw some stuff up just as soon as she arrives.
Awesome.
Let's point out that it looks like, and I haven't gone hands-on myself, but it looks like that the Osmo Action is using the same mounting scenario as the GoPros. And so for guys that have a lot of suction cup clamps or magic arms or whatever, where you've got a 1/4 to a GoPro, it looks like all that stuff is still compatible. And I'm kind of surprised, but DJI is not known for playing well with others and saving you $1 on accessories. Usually they want you to buy all new things, but it looks like it's compatible. So fingers crossed on that.
And I guess that's not an intellectual property thing. I mean, for them to use the same mounts, but it's good for the consumer. I'm thrilled because, like you, I have a lot of mounts over there.
Oh, they stack up. Tommy, did you have some intel on that?
Oh no, when I was reading about some of the specs and stuff, it said that the Osmo Action is slightly wider and a little tiny bit shorter. So it'll probably be very close, but it is slightly off.
But as far as the hinge points and things like that for the mounts,
no, I'm sorry, no, that's
just the hinge with the fins and stuff like that. Andy might have one on standby. Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, so It looks like it's still compatible. We'll see. Some of these other guys in the chat might have some intel on that as well. I don't know, but when I was just looking at it online, I was like, hey, fingers crossed that they mount up.
Something that should be mentioned too, Freddie Uslaf in the chat said, and I can confirm this because I saw this in a few of the reviews so that people will know. He saw a test with the DJI Cam. It crops the picture more than a GoPro to stabilize it. So when it uses the rock steady, you are getting a slightly cropped, still widescreen, but still a cropped image somewhat.
GoPro does the same thing.
It does it more. It does it. They've tested it. It does it more than GoPro does. They mounted the GoPro and the Osmo on a bar and ran with them.
You get a good linear stabilized image from the reviews I've seen. Again, I have not gone hands-on yet. So.
If it's better stabilization.
What people were saying was that it's DJI is actually recommending shooting at 2.7 just for that reason, so that you get more on the sensor, and so when it pushes in, you're really not losing that much effectively once you drop it into your 1080.
And I don't know how you shoot, but typically when I'm using GoPro, I do shoot at 2.7. It gives me just enough room that because typically I shoot in 3840. I export at 1080, and 2.7 gives me just enough room where I can push into crop without losing, my 1080.
Sure. And it's not the memory hog of 4K.
Yeah, it's not it's not a bad trade-off. And all these people say I got to shoot in 4K, but they probably never edited in 4K.
Sure.
It's like your export's going to be in it. And we're still in a 1080 world on devices like we're viewing right now. So.
Yeah, and the devices that pay my mortgage, everything we broadcast is 1080. So everyone that buys these 4K TVs, enjoy your Blu-rays because you're not watching our broadcast footage in 4K. It's all coming to you at 1080.
I know it well. I came from your industry. So.
That's right.
By the way, you guys in the chat and watching the show, please give us a thumbs up down there. And I've also found out something, by the way, on YouTube. Comments after the show are really, really important as far as us growing this channel. So if you would do us a huge favor and just throw some comments on the video after the show is over, that helps us grow. That helps us grow immensely. So we would definitely appreciate that.
Can I throw a couple things in before?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're not done by any stretch.
Oh, okay. Well, good. I just want to take, I'm a recreational flyer. We're switching back to drones for a minute.
You're limited.
I am. I live in the heart of probably the second most strict no-fly zone outside of the White House. I live in the heart of Disney World, so there's no way that I'm lifting off out here. But I actually, Jason's segment was very informative from a recreational user's perspective, and thank you for that. The other thing I just wanted to say, and I don't know if people realize this. Randy, you work in the industry, Curtis, what you're doing with this show is just fantastic. To do a regularly scheduled broadcast, to line up guests, to line up subject matter, to go off on time, multiple cameras and guests. Thank you. Here, I'll tip my hat to you on that. Made you look again. No, honestly, and thank you for doing this. You just have some good content. You have good guests, and that's appreciated from the viewer's perspective.
I think it was a big coup getting you on here, by the way.
Oh, come on. I wasn't doing anything else.
When you messaged me and I was like, I got to have you on, Andy. I got to have you on. You have to be on the show. It was a big.
I've done well over, and I don't even know the number, more than 1,000 or 1,500 live, most of the network broadcasts. This is my first ever web broadcast. I just don't do them. I like to use real audio, real video, but when you ask, I answer. Well,
thank you very much. And thank you for the compliments. It is a group effort. It's not just me. There's a lot of other people that are behind the scenes that are helping out with a lot of other things. We all conference on this stuff and talk about it. So no, it's not just me. I realize I'm the guy that kind of talks the most and kind of is up front, but I do have some great people that are helping out. So I want to give a shout out to those folks as well. So Tommy, to get back to the Osmo, I didn't want to exclude you here. Do you have any thoughts about you purchasing one, or you have some negatives, some pros?
You know what? If I was going to buy an action cam, the last action cam I bought, the first action cam I bought, believe it or not, was the Runcam 3, which was supposed to be a GoPro session competitor, and it did well, except for the audio failed miserably. But I still have one. It still runs great. I still have it strapped to a quad behind me. It's orange. It's nice to. I've lost it a couple times. It's real nice. But GoPro actually sent Runcam a letter and called that infringement of design or something, design infringement, so that they canceled that. There's a Runcam 3S out now. In the FPV world, it does okay. I think that's about as far as it's going to go. I have a GoPro Session 4, and that's the last action cam that I have. So if I'm going to buy another action cam, you know what? After seeing this, as impressed as I am with this thing hanging off of here, yeah, I would definitely consider buying the Osmo Action.
Well, the reason I was specific, I wanted to ask you is because I know you're an FPV flyer doing acro stuff, and with that rock steady on there, I honestly think that DJI is thinking about you guys when they put that on there. I'm kind of excited for it. The ability to use rock steady and put it on a acro quad that does flips and rolls and all that stuff. If it can tame some of that footage to where it's, I don't want to say there's a certain dynamic to it. And all this stuff that's going on, and you want a certain amount of frenzy, but if you can tame that and get a little bit of cinematic stuff out of that stuff, whoa, that would be a big game changer. So I kind of think
right now, is Rocksteady going to give you that much of a delay in going from the lens to your viewfinder?
No, we have a separate
processing that can do that.
Well, they're using a separate camera, Andy. They use a FPV camera, and it's an analog feed. That's what they're watching through their headphones, and then they have a GoPro traditionally mounted on there, and that GoPro is they're filming. So there's two cameras on their quads.
Yeah, this is the FPV camera down here.
Oh, okay.
And this is the
I've
Runcam
never
3.
done that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm
this
just a pure out of the box
analog.
guy, yeah.
Yeah, this is an analog signal on a 5.8 gigahertz signal that sends to the goggles. So that's strictly that. Whatever we have this, we try to match the pitch as best as possible. So we'll hit record on this and just fly.
Okay.
And then we'll just get it back, and then we throw the SD card in the computer and edit it up.
Good education.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
I did.
Yeah, I kind of did a little bit of FPV. I mean, I knew that this was one possibility of, with that rock steady look, and I looked at God, I can't remember his name, but he was running with the thing, and it gave a really steady image. And the very first thing I thought of was, wow, I wonder if maybe that the reason DJI is releasing this is to get into the acro market. The guys that are flying, their drones upside down and through pipes and tight spaces, and going 70 and 80 miles an hour. So I'm kind of looking forward to the guys like over at Rotor Riot and stuff like that getting their hands on it and seeing what they do. Rotor Riot, by the way, is a FPV show that's kind of going on. I'm trying to get hold of them, by the way, to see if we can do something together. So if you guys are listening, or if anybody what's his name, Drew. Call Drew or Chad and say, hey, let's hook up and let's discuss this thing.
If I had to make a prediction, I don't think DJI will go after that market. I don't think it's big enough for the company that they've become, a mass merchandise company. They could take something like this, have it evolve into something like this, They have the components. Again, they have Hasselblad. They have everything else. Curtis, if you go back to some of our chats from a few years ago, I always predicted that DJI could be a gimbal company or a camera company, because at one point we didn't know the future with drones. And it seems that they could go a lot of different directions at this point.
I agree.
Yeah, attacking the FPV market, I think, is a good move, though. I mean, they own the other market. Why not step into this one?
Yeah, I think, and they could do it without, as Andy said, they can also develop from this point on further into other cameras. But I do think they are kind of getting into the FPV market. I think they want a piece of that. It is a good market.
FPV guys are creative. They're weird. They want to do weird, off the wall film stuff, which is, if they listen to the feedback, I think they'll evolve even further.
All right, guys. If nobody has anything else to say, I want to thank everybody in the chat. Let's see, is there any questions over there? DJI is coming out with a similar but slightly different USB-C microphone adapter for the Osmo Action. The details are still slim there, but we don't have the cost yet. That's from Zen Badger.
It does say something about microphone expansion via USB-C.
Yeah, by the way, has anybody found an adapter that works? Like, have you tried the GoPro USB-C adapter? Does it work on the Action? Has anybody tried yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. Checkered Flag Films has been contributing with a whole bunch of really useful information in the chat log. I wonder if you guys have any knowledge of that, if the GoPro USB-C audio adapter would work with the DJI Action Cam. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. It sounds like
Checkered Flag.
I have one right here, USB-C, ready to try as soon as the camera comes in.
So you ordered one, right, Andy?
Yeah, I ordered one from, I don't know if I could say the name, but from a DJI dealer. I haven't gotten any shipping notification. I assume it'll show up at my door at some point. I'm not in any rush to get it, but I saw plenty of cameras here.
Yeah, you got plenty. I saw a lot of the DJI Direct, but the DJI retailers were getting theirs like May 20th is what I was seeing. So that's just around the corner. So they'll probably be shipping out very soon after that.
I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot of great places, to try it out, and I wish them the best of luck with this unit. It's a tough market. A lot of people think the action camera market is dead, but I tell you, you walk around Disney World, you see more GoPros out there than any other camera when people walk around. That and smartphones, of course,
Checkered Flag Films says, in my honest opinion, the DJI Osmo Action Cam image is sharper, crisper, and colors are more natural compared to the GoPro, but looks more digital. The GoPro is softer, warmer, and leaves less sharp image.
Yeah, so it looks more natural. Or the GoPro still looks a little bit more natural, whereas the Osmo or the DJI version looks a little too edgy and kind of digitized.
I I have good success mixing GoPro images with, my higher end cameras on the same timeline. I use Final Cut, and I don't have any problem. It's going to be interesting to see how DJI mixes in when they're using it as a B or C camera.
So we do the same thing, Andy. We mix GoPros with 5Ds. We mix GoPros with, I don't want to get into all the nerdy specs, but we use Panasonic Vericams as our big cameras, and it's a very cinematic camera. People become kind of camera snobs and they're like, oh, well, you can't use a GoPro and cut it with that. Oh, yes, you can. You absolutely can.
I mean, just watch Carpool Karaoke. When you see how they put it in, and I don't know what they're using for audio, but for video, they're using action cams. The images you're doing, like on your Toro segment and others, the quality that's coming out of there, and especially mixed with the aspect that you can go live from a moving vehicle, is just, it's a great world out there for video production.
I will say, in our world, we are typically not using the audio on the GoPros when we do stuff. What I typically do, I'm an audio engineer. What I typically do is drop my sound bag in the vehicle, all the microphones, everything's being recorded in my sound bag. And I'm actually, I don't know if I can show this to you or not, but let's see if you can see my camera. But my audio bag's sitting here with me because,
I'm geeking out right now. That's all there is to it. I love this stuff.
So
Ray, one day, if we ever get together, or maybe we'll do it here one day, I'll tell you the story when we did the world's first live broadcast from a moving roller coaster. It was with NBC Today. You would not believe the equipment that we had to use. This was in the early 90s. Before then, everything was on video. It could not go live. We had to do it at Cedar Point in Ohio because it was a wooden roller coaster to bounce the signals off of. That was phenomenal, the amount of setup that thing took for a 5-minute segment. It was amazing.
No doubt. Andy, I would imagine that you and I probably know a lot of the same people and don't even realize it.
I'm sure we do. In the control room, I still have some old friends. I'm sure we do.
I bet we do.
Yeah. A lot of the host and anchors are gone for whatever reasons, but other than that.
Well, Andy, we're not going to let you be a stranger anymore. We're going to have you on the show more often. We're having way too much fun.
I hope I didn't talk too much.
Oh, no, you did.
That's what Curtis does. That's his job.
That's my job to talk too much.
And again, people don't realize he's pushing buttons. He's doing everything else. He's answering text messages. He's coordinating the whole bit. Hats off to you. Okay, one more time. Hats off to you.
Yes.
Made you look again. See, this is fun, isn't it? That's what TV should be.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, thank you all for joining us today. We definitely appreciate it. We hit our hour there. Jason had to jump out. His weather was getting really, he just messaged me and said the weather's getting really bad. He was afraid he was going to lose power anyway. So, Jason, our fingers are crossed for you and thinking about you, brother. As for the rest of you, we'll see you guys next week. We're out of here.